Sometimes, the most shocking moments in the UFC happen outside the cage. One fighter seems poised to dominate, but then gets called out for his so-called lack of focus. Another storms social media with a raw, emotional rant that splits the fan base in two. And just when everyone thinks they know who the next champion will be, an underdog emerges, upsets the odds, and sends an entire division into chaos. In the ever-evolving world of mixed martial arts, every decision, from who corners whom to how a fighter approaches their training camp, can flip the script on entire careers. Today, we're diving deep into the latest bombshells shaking up multiple UFC divisions. We'll uncover the pressure surrounding Alex Pereira's title defense, Daniel Cormier's heated concerns, and whether the UFC has grown more concerned with entertainment than with raw skill. We'll also explore the welterweight ambitions of Joaquin Buckley, the heartbreak that fuels Michael Chandler's next move, and the swirling debate over Conor McGregor's future. Stay with me until the very end, because each section reveals something new that might change the way you look at these fighters and the UFC itself. Alex Pereira has never been the type to shy away from a challenge. He's known for his devastating strikes, towering presence, and fearless mindset, qualities that carried him to a title in the light heavyweight division. But with success comes inevitable skepticism, and this time the doubt isn't just from fans, but from prominent figures in the MMA community. Chief among them is Daniel Cormier, who recently expressed concern that Alex is stretching himself too thin by traveling overseas to corner teammate Sean Strickland in Australia. Cormier voiced the opinion that Pereira should laser focus on preparing for Magomed Ankalaev, an opponent widely believed to have one of the most formidable ground attacks in the division. According to DC, a championship-level fighter can't afford to divide his attention by taking multiple trips, commitments, and media obligations. Yet here's the twist. Alex insists he has been here before and emerged victorious. He claims that not only was this entire trip planned well in advance, but that he thrives under conditions most fighters would consider grueling. Critics can say what they want, Alex hinted in one recent interview, but I know my limits and I trust my corner. Being in Australia was no vacation. My team and I were fully aware of every hour spent training. He made it clear that while some might think he's risking his belt for the sake of friendships, he sees it as investing in deeper bonds and harnessing a renewed energy. Much of the MMA world is torn. Some fans believe Alex's confidence is well-founded, others see it as a reckless gamble, especially given Ankalaev's dangerous wrestling. But as we'll see, the chatter around Alex is only one piece of a much larger puzzle, and the biggest rumblings might come from the man looking to dethrone him. So will the doubters see their predictions come true, or is Pereira truly unstoppable under pressure? As we move on, the looming threat of Magomed Ankalaev grows, and we'll find out why so many analysts are calling this the toughest test Alex has faced to date.
But how did it all come to be that you would finally be facing him in March in Las Vegas?
Bom, eu sempre vim falando que queria dar descanso, demorar pouquinho mais de lutar, mas, comecei a treinar, a evolução que eu tô tendo nos treinos, eu, já peguei o telefone, liguei meu empresário e falei, quero ligar o quanto antes. Então eles entraram em contato com a organização e lógico, eu pedi o Ankalaev, né, isso...
Well, I did say that I wanted to take a break, but I start training again, I start feeling good, I start seeing my evolution, so I call my managers right away and I say I want to fight in March. I want to fight Ankalaev. I know he keeps saying that I'm just an employee of the UFC, I fight whenever they want, but I asked for him. I told him when I want to fight.
Right now, light heavyweight is only one of the divisions on the brink of a shakeup. Magomed Ankalaev has zero intention of letting Alex Pereira hold onto the belt without a bruising war on the mat. Footage has already surfaced of Ankalaev hammering out intense ground and pound drills. Training partners claim he's more motivated than ever, especially with critics pointing to his one-dimensional style. He wants to prove he's more than just a wrestler. He's the next unstoppable champion, yet the upcoming fights across weight classes seem equally explosive. Over in heavyweight territory, Sergey Spivak is set to clash with Shamil Gaze. One fighter's chasing a comeback, another is trying to ride his recent TKO momentum. Gaze's first-round finish over Thomas Peterson at UFC Saudi Arabia showcased lethal hands that could upend the entire heavyweight ladder if he strings together more wins. Meanwhile, Spivak suffered a hard loss back in January to Jailton Almeida and is determined to prove that defeat was nothing more than a temporary slip. Down a few weight classes, a bantamweight showdown promises to shake up the top prospects. Montel Jackson versus Daniel Marcos has fans buzzing as Jackson's 5-fight winning streak collides with Marcos's undefeated record. Both men see themselves as future title contenders, and an impressive victory here could open the door to top 10 opponents. But that's still not the whole story. These official announcements are shifting the entire dynamic of their respective divisions. Many fans wonder how these matchups will impact each fighter's title trajectory, who might be fast-tracked to a championship bout, and which hidden gem in each division might emerge as the next big star. The UFC rumor mill is on overdrive, predicting that any slip-up now could derail a fighter's entire year, or even their career. Keep that in mind, because the more pressure piles on, the more likely it is we'll see someone rise to the occasion in a way that stuns us all. After all, there's a certain fire that only ignites when a fighter has everything to lose, and perhaps no one captures that desperation better than the man we're about to discuss next. Joaquin Buckley might not have the same mainstream recognition as Conor McGregor or Israel Adesanya, but he's a name every hardcore MMA fan respects. He rose to internet fame with one of the most jaw-dropping spinning kick knockouts in UFC history. Yet the flash of a highlight reel finish doesn't always guarantee a fighter's future. Buckley has faced setbacks, losses that forced him to reevaluate his approach to fighting. But if his recent outpouring on social media is any clue, he's entering a new, more dangerous phase of his career. In an emotional live session, Buckley made his intentions clear. He wants that welterweight belt, and he's prepared to take on the champion, Belal Muhammad. While praising Belal for his own grind and talents, Buckley made no bones about the fact that he's coming for everything the champ has. He spoke of personal hardships, the weight of family responsibilities, and the raw desire to change his life for good. Some fans see it as an inspiring show of heart, others interpret it as a desperation move from a fighter who's risking it all. Either way, the intensity in Buckley's voice felt genuine. He's not looking just for a payday or a taste of fame. He's fighting to secure a future for his grandmother and children, paying 24-hour care bills and trying to break generational cycles. That kind of hunger can't be faked. It's precisely this emotional undercurrent that has many insiders predicting Buckley will fight like a man possessed the next time he steps into the octagon. And if he does, even a top-tier athlete like Belal might need more than skill. He might need mental armor strong enough to withstand a contender who's fueled by far more than just dreams of a belt. But here's the big question: does a driven mindset guarantee success? Or could that emotional burden become a liability under the bright lights? The MMA world has seen both outcomes. Buckley's path to the title isn't carved in stone, and numerous welterweights stand in his way. One way or another, keep your eyes on him, because the story he's telling is far from finished. Next, we turn to another fighter who's battling the ghosts of recent defeats and planning to exact a fierce kind of revenge.
I'm like this close to becoming the world champion, man. And I see everybody, they getting blessed, they having great opportunities, man. But I got a list of names that I want to get, bro. Right? I got a list of names that I want to get. So I got one more name to get before I get to that belt. But shout out to Belal, man, because I really think Belal gonna do it. I know he gonna beat JDM, right? And not because I feel like JDM ain't got the talents or he got the skill sets, but it's right here. Don't nobody treat that man like a champion. How you gonna deny a person that on a 12-fight winning streak, that dominated the last champion that had the belt when it came to Leon Ellis, you know? Like, a lot of y'all be playing with Belal, and that's exactly why he wins.
Michael Chandler has never hidden his emotions from fans, and that vulnerability has made his journey in the UFC compelling to watch. After all, he's a fighter who entered the promotion with a wave of hype, facing top-level competition right out of the gate. Yet heartbreak came in the form of two high-profile losses to Charles Oliveira. First in a championship bout, then in a rematch that Chandler felt sure he would win. The second defeat hit him like a ton of bricks, leaving him questioning whether he'd ever hold UFC gold. Chandler described that crushing moment vividly, stepping into an SUV with his wife immediately after the fight, tears in his eyes, convinced he had squandered a once-in-a-lifetime shot. For a moment, he believed he might never get another crack at the belt. Unlike earlier in his career, when he tried to hide from the pain, Chandler decided to face the disappointment head-on. Just a few days later, he was appearing on podcasts and interviews, refusing to let the loss define him. Now he's turning all that heartbreak into fuel for his upcoming clash with Paddy Pimblett. Chandler says someone has to pay for his anguish, and he seems determined to make Paddy the sacrificial lamb. It's a classic storyline. A seasoned veteran battered by brutal losses, looking to reassert himself against a younger, arguably less tested opponent. But as we know, in MMA, the difference between success and failure sometimes comes down to a single split-second decision or a moment's hesitation. Chandler's confidence could either carry him to a devastating finish or leave him wide open for a shocking upset. The stakes are enormous. A victory might put Chandler right back in the conversation for a future title shot. A loss could put his entire career on the brink. Few fights in the lightweight division have such emotionally charged undertones, and fans are divided on whether Paddy Pimblett is truly overmatched or just crafty enough to pull off a stunner. Yet, as we'll soon find out, the lightweight picture is more crowded than ever. Belal Muhammad may not be in the same division as Chandler, but he's got a fight of his own that's stirring up massive debate across the MMA sphere.
We're hitting the hyperbaric chamber. We are hitting everything because the road to recovery started on Monday. Got my MRIs and all that stuff set up, and getting the results back inside the confines of competition, inside the contest. And I could look back and play out 1,000 different scenarios. And hindsight is always 20/20. And I could replay them all in my mind ad nauseum. And there's 1,000 things that I wish I would have changed about the fight. But here we are. You can't always guarantee a win. You can't always guarantee a positive outcome.
It's no secret that Belal Muhammad has had a rocky road to respect in the UFC. Despite a lengthy winning streak, he's often overlooked or criticized for a style that some fans label grindy. But as we've seen time and again, Belal's wrestling-heavy, pressure-forward approach can dismantle some of the best. Now he's set to face Jack Della Maddalena, better known as JDM, a rising star who boasts crisp striking and a calmness under fire that has more than one top fighter singing his praises. Renato Moicano didn't mince words when he predicted Belal would likely run through JDM, citing Belal's ability to dictate the pace and take fights where he wants them. Gilbert Burns added fuel to the conversation, acknowledging that he's faced both men, losing a decision to Belal and getting knocked out by JDM, and still gives Belal the edge. Yet Kamaru Usman, a man who knows more about controlling welterweight fights than most, points out that JDM's stand-up is sophisticated enough to cause big problems. The real kicker is the timing. JDM has been out of action for nearly a year, making this a serious gamble for a fighter returning from a long layoff. Belal, on the other hand, has consistently sharpened his craft, proving that those who underestimate him often regret it. If JDM's ring rust proves too significant, he could be in for a rough night. But if he's leveled up his wrestling defense and finds a way to keep the fight standing, we might see Belal on the back foot for the first time in ages. The fight has become a microcosm of the welterweight division's current status. Some see Belal as the rightful #1 contender waiting to break through, while others believe new blood like JDM or even Joaquin Buckley could eventually redefine the top tier. What's clear is that the winner of this showdown moves directly into the championship mix. It's a high-stakes collision that fans can't wait to see, and no matter how it ends, the ripple effect will shape the welterweight landscape for months, if not years, to come. But the welterweight division isn't the only place where controversies swirl. Another top contender in a different weight class, Dustin Poirier, has a surprising opinion about a familiar face, Conor McGregor.
Jack Della Maddalena, I didn't like.
Who you think, Belal or Jack?
Belal, 100%.
I think Belal, not that crazy, but I think
100%, my brother.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
No, yeah.
But Gilbert Burns was taking him down until
until I eat a knee.
Yeah. Would you say
didn't taste good, bro?
You would say you have better wrestling than Belal Muhammad?
I would say I have better grappling. I think Belal wrestling is good.
Is
but
better,
Belal has the best, one of the, if not the best, is one of the best takedown defense.
Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor share one of the most heated rivalries in modern MMA. Two back-to-back victories for Poirier appeared to put the rivalry to rest, especially after Conor's unfortunate leg break in their last encounter. Some fans thought that ended the story for good, but in MMA, no story is ever truly over, especially when Conor McGregor is involved. Surprisingly, Dustin has suggested that if anyone can make a triumphant return to form, it's Conor. This is coming from the man who served up 2 decisive defeats to the Irish superstar, leaving him with an injury that sidelined him for an extended period. Despite their heated past, Poirier isn't counting out his old adversary. He believes that Conor thrives on the spotlight. If Conor can reclaim that laser-like passion he once had, Dustin sees a potential comeback on the horizon. Of course, many skeptics think Conor's best days are behind him, calling him more of a social media presence than a genuine contender. But if history has taught us anything about McGregor, it's that he has a knack for proving people wrong in dramatic fashion. Still, a question lingers. If Conor does return, in what weight class will he fight? And will that unstoppable early career form resurface? Or will ring rust and physical setbacks be too much to overcome? Poirier's admiration might be genuine, or it might be the psychological chess match continuing between two top-tier fighters who know each other all too well. Either way, the possibility of a Conor McGregor comeback will keep fans on the edge of their seats. While we're pondering McGregor's next move, another champion has admitted he's close to stepping away from the sport altogether. And that leads us to the man widely considered one of the pound-for-pound best, Alexander Volkanovski.
The money he made after he fought Floyd, $100 million fighting Floyd, then came back defending belts, making really good money. He started his business, sold it for a couple $100 million. Like, wake up and run those miles when you sleep in silk sheets. That's true, man. That's why guys like John Jones, those guys who make it there and have money and have everything and stay there for that long, that's impressive, man. First fight, bro, he really got into my head. We said some stuff when we crossed paths that there were deep things, you know, like not just like F you or I'm gonna whip your ass. Little pokes, I was thinking about it. I was thinking about everything he said. When I would go to sleep, I was thinking about it. And then in the next fights, I just had so many fights and so much experience that I didn't care. I didn't care. Nothing could like get in my vessel. It was just noise. I didn't care.
At 36 years old, Alexander the Great Volkanovski has achieved the kind of dominance in the featherweight division that few thought possible. With big names like Max Holloway and Brian Ortega in his win column, Volk has been a relentless force. But even unstoppable champions start eyeing the horizon where life after fighting beckons. And if Volk's recent comments hold true, that horizon might be closer than fans would like. He's on the cusp of facing Diego Lopez for a vacant title, thanks to Ilia Topuria's recent decision to move up to lightweight. Many expect Volk to regain the belt and further solidify his position as one of the greatest featherweights ever. Yet the champion himself seems to waver, openly questioning how much longer he wants to endure the grind that comes with elite-level competition. Training camps are brutal, especially for a fighter who demands so much from himself. The hours of sparring, the punishing weight cuts, and the mental toll of always living one loss away from a derailed legacy, it all adds up. Volk has floated the idea of winning the belt, defending it once or twice, and then possibly saying goodbye to the sport on his own terms. Of course, that's easier said than done. The adrenaline of a big fight, the roar of the crowd, and the lure of high-profile matchups can be addictive. In the UFC, retirement announcements often come with a disclaimer, subject to change. But if anyone can stay true to his word, it might be the no-nonsense Volkanovski, who has repeatedly demonstrated he's willing to sacrifice comfort for greatness. What would a featherweight division look like without Volk? That's the million-dollar question. Newer contenders like Movsar Evloev and established names like Max Holloway, again, might throw themselves into the mix for the vacant throne. One thing is certain, a Volkless division means a massive power vacuum, but before that day comes, he plans to show fans exactly why he's at the top and give them a series of fights to remember. Another man, meanwhile, has left the UFC not by choice, but by a controversial decision that has outraged fans and sparked debates about fairness in the organization.
How much longer, like I still love it, but how much longer do I want to do this to myself and my body? And, you know, I do want to eventually sail off in the sunset, right? I've already started that. I'm here on the farm, you know, and I enjoyed the last year. It's been incredible. I started thinking, man, am I going to go back? That's how much I was enjoying it.
Wow.
So it's crazy. But, you know, I want to have one last crack and one, you know, get really stuck into it. Win that belt, defend it, maybe defend it again. You know, maybe or one big fight after a defense, we'll see, and then it's maybe I'm done.
It's not often a fighter on a winning streak finds himself out of the UFC. Yet Taylor Lapalus, riding a 2-fight win streak and holding a 3-1 record since his return, has been shown the door. The official reason is unclear, but fans and insiders suspect it comes down to entertainment value, or what the UFC perceives as a lack of it. While Lapalus's performances might not have been highlight reel material, he was winning, and that used to be the main metric for staying on the roster. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. Lapalus experienced a similar cut in his earlier UFC stint despite having a positive record. Critics on social media erupted with accusations that the UFC is inching closer to the realm of pure entertainment, entertainment, focusing on flashy knockouts over tactical skill. After all, we've seen fighters with lengthy losing streaks survive far longer, presumably because they have a recognizable name or a style that sells tickets. Some fans argue that every major sports league focuses on viewership numbers. Why should the UFC be any different? Others see it as a betrayal of what MMA purports to be, the purest test of one fighter's skill against another's, not a popularity contest. The frustration is palpable, with many calling the cut disgusting and inexcusable. Meanwhile, the UFC hasn't provided a detailed explanation, which only adds to the speculation and sense of injustice. For the moment, Lapalus finds himself adrift, and fans are left wondering if more skilled but unexciting fighters will share his fate. Many in the community fear that these cuts point toward an era where top-tier talent could be abandoned if they're not deemed entertaining enough. And that's a bittersweet note to end on, but our story today isn't over just yet. We still have to weave all these threads together and leave you with a final question that might change how you view the next UFC event.
Taylor, 30-27, a clean sweep on the scorecards. You got to be happy with that.
Taylor, 30-27 sur les cartes de jeu, tu dois être très content avec le résultat.
Yes, I'm happy with the score. I am happy to talk with you, Michael. Because when I speak with you, this is a great night, so I'm very happy. And first of all, thank you for the UFC. UFC worked so hard to give me on the card, so I'm very happy to fight in front of my people.
From Alex Pereira's determination to silence the critics and Daniel Cormier's harsh assessments, to Joaquin Buckley's emotional quest for the welterweight strap and Michael Chandler's vow to make someone pay for his heartbreak, each of these stories reflects a fighter at a crucial crossroads. Belal Muhammad's showdown with Jack Della Maddalena could tilt the welterweight division in a surprising direction, while Dustin Poirier's peculiar vote of confidence for Conor McGregor reminds us that comebacks and rivalries are never truly off the table in MMA. On top of all this drama, Alexander Volkanovski's introspection about the end of his run and the UFC's controversial release of Taylor Lapalus reveal a sport in flux, caught between its old identity as a pure competition and a new era that places increasing emphasis on marketability. The question now becomes, where does the UFC and the sport of mixed martial arts as a whole draw the line between genuine athletic merit and entertainment value? As fans, we can't help but wonder which story will explode next, who will be the next champion, or who might be the next to exit the promotion under a storm of protests. The only certainty in the UFC is that nothing remains the same for long, so whether you're cheering for the unstoppable willpower of Alex Pereira, the raw passion of Joaquin Buckley, the redemption arc of Michael Chandler, or even anticipating a shock from a newcomer, one thing is guaranteed: the next twist in this rapidly shifting MMA landscape is always just around the corner. Thank you for tuning in. If this peek behind the headlines fired you up, don't forget to stay locked in for more breaking news and deep dives into the biggest stories rocking the cage. And as always, keep your guard up, because in the UFC, the unexpected is bound to happen.